Hello, I'm Mandy, and for my contribution presentation, I'm going to discuss the life and achievements of William Still. While William Still is not very widely known by many, the role he played for his community in the 1800s has nonetheless had many everlasting effects on our society today. William Still was an abolitionist leader and writer during the antebellum period. Antebellum is a term used to refer to the time prior to the Civil War. The period lasted from around 1830 to 1860. Much of Still's most significant work was accomplished during this period of time. Still was born on October 7, 1821, to Levin and Charity Still. Still was the youngest of 18 children. Still's parents were both born into slavery in Maryland. His father bought himself out, and his mother escaped before Still was born, so Still was born a free black man. From his parents, Still learned a strong sense of family, work, pride, and self-determination. In 1844, Still moved to Philadelphia. 3 years later, he married his wife, Letitia George. She was a skilled dressmaker. They had 4 children together. In 1847, the same year he married his wife, Still found work as a clerk in the office of the Pennsylvania Society for the Abolition of Slavery. The Pennsylvania Society for the Abolition of Slavery was first organized in 1775. The Society's main goals included promoting abolition of slavery, as well as relief of free Negroes unlawfully held in bondage. They also worked on improving the condition of the African race. Jobs and education were provided to Black youth as a means of creating a higher quality of life during this time. A few years after Still joined the Society, the Fugitive Slave Act was passed in 1850. The Fugitive Slave Act was a series of laws regarding the treatment of slaves. The new laws required the return of runaway slaves and allowed the seizure of alleged slaves without due process of law. Because of these laws, vigilance committees were created to protect Blacks from kidnappers who were searching the North for runaways. Still was appointed of Philadelphia's Society's Vigilance Committee. Still's desire for aiding the fugitive slaves was sparked when he had an unexpected reunion with his brother who had arrived in his office looking for assistance. As a part of the Vigilance Committee, Still assisted his brother, as well as many other runaway slaves, make their way to free northern states as well as Canada. One of Still's first major accomplishments was his learning to read and write. With little formal education available, Still taught himself these skills. He studied grammar and read everything he could get his hands on. Still saw his learning as a way to form an African resistance to slavery. He went on to document the resistance and was able to write letters to his family and friends during the time. In 1859, Still helped write the petition for the colored people of Philadelphia to ride in the cars. This was a letter to the press protesting racial discrimination on Philadelphia streetcars. The petition stated, "In New York City and in all of the principal northern cities, except Philadelphia, they ride. Even in New Orleans, they ride in the cars. Why then should they be excluded in Philadelphia, in a city standing so preeminently high for its benevolence, liberality, love of freedom, and Christianity as the city of brotherly love?" This was one of the many publications Still wrote outlining the struggle of rights for colored people. Still's most significant accomplishment would be the work he did with the Underground Railroad. The Underground Railroad was a network of people who helped fugitive slaves escape to the northern states. After slaves escaped from their slaveholder, they would travel from station to station overnight. Still used his education and ability to write to document the experiences of the slaves that passed through Philadelphia's network. Still recorded detailed accounts of each individual he met and helped move north along the Philadelphia station. This is the only first-person account of Black activities on the Underground Railroad written and self-published by an African American. When the Civil War broke out, Still hid his accounts in the Lebanon Cemetery building. In 1861, along with several other members of the Pennsylvania Anti-Slavery Association, Still helped establish the Social Civil Statistical Association for the colored people of Pennsylvania. Not only did this committee work for the abolition of slavery, but it worked for the general racial equality as a whole. When Lincoln realized that the war may be lost if African Americans were not permitted to fight, Camp William Penn was opened in order to train black Federal soldiers. The camp attracted many abolitionists, including Still. William operated a store on the campgrounds as a post sutler. In 1865, he also volunteered in the Union Army. In 1871, the Anti-Slavery Society asked Still to write a book about the Underground Railroad. Still used the first-hand accounts he recorded and hid prior to the Civil War to write this book. The Underground Railroad was published in 1872 and exhibited at the Philadelphia Centennial Exposition in 1876. Today, this book is some of the very little information available on this significant time in history. William Still has many other accomplishments in addition to his work as an abolitionist. As a businessman, he purchased real estate, opened a coal business, and eventually a coal yard, and because of his success, was named the Philadelphia Board of Trade. He also was a member of the Freedmen's Aid Commission. He organized one of the first YMCAs for Black youth, as well as he was a supporter of the temperance movement. This is a quote by William Still. It reads, "Now thank God we have no more slavery to oppress us. We have no more tyrants to flee from. The prison house and the Underground Railroad are things of the past. Let us not forget the days of our bondage, however, but let us keep constantly in memory the pit from whence we digged and the rock from whence we hewed, that our children may see what their parents have suffered, and stand up fully for God and freedom while life lasts." Overall, I think Still's main mission was to empower the African American community. His work with the Underground Railroad and the Pennsylvania Anti-Slavery Association allowed him to aid hundreds of fugitive slaves in their journey to freedom. Without his commitment to establishing racial equality, the voices of the African American community may have never been heard. As stated by Still, we cannot forget these events happened, but we can learn from them and grow as a society. Although Still was not a social worker, I think his values hold closely to the values of the social work profession. Still worked day in and day out to challenge the social injustices of his time. He saw all people equally and committed his life to helping those in need. Through his perseverance, he was able to change history and truly leave an impact on our society today. As a summary, William Still was a very important figure in the antebellum period. Although his name is not familiar to many of us today, it was his bravery as an abolitionist and dedication in documenting the stories of the Underground Railroad that we are able to use as an example and learn from today in our own practice. These are my references, and I hope you got to learn as much as I did through my presentation of William Still. Thanks for watching.